My name is Jörg Widmer. I'm the DOP of A Hidden Life. You're listening to the Go Creative Show.
Hey everyone, my name is Ben Consoli. I am a director and owner of BC Media Productions. This is the Go Creative Show, the show dedicated to creative professionals and filmmakers. Today we discuss the new Terrence Malick film, A Hidden Life, with director of photography, Joerg Widmer. The Go Creative Show is supported by Hedge, Shutterstock, Rule Boston Camera, and Premium Beat. So I am super excited about today's episode for a couple reasons. First, Terrence Malick films are awesome, and A Hidden Life is certainly no different. It lived up to all the expectations that I had, and I'm sure you guys did too. It's just really well done, well directed, shot beautifully, and we're going to talk a lot about that. We've got the director of photography, Joerg Widmer, on the show, and another reason that I'm excited about this particular conversation is because it's unique for us here at Go Creative Show, because Jörg only uses a couple of focal lengths in this film, and they're all wide. I think there might be two in the entire film, and they are all extremely wide. I want to say a 14 and a 12. I don't know 100%. You guys, it's in the episode, so you can check it out. But what's cool about this is that we have a discussion about what that means in his cinematography and filmmaking by limiting your lens set to just one very small focal length range. And, it's an interesting conversation about, what that does to the filmmaking, what kind of challenges he had to overcome, and what benefits there were from it as well. So it's a great conversation, and it's coming up in just a couple of minutes. Before we get there, I want you guys to sign up for all of our social media. Yes, follow us there, because whenever we have upcoming guests, we give you guys the opportunity to have your questions on the show. We're going to do that today in this episode, and we've been doing that across the board in the past, few months. So follow us there. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We will let you know when guests are coming and get your questions on the show. Follow us there. At Go Creative Show will get you to all of those places. At Go Creative Show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Okay? Let's quickly talk about Hedge. Why don't we? Yes. I was just using Hedge on a shoot the other day. It's a backup software for filmmakers. And what I love about it is that it's super fast. It's really easy. I mean, there's no learning curve to this thing. You open up the application, and right there on the left are all of your sources, where you can put all of your sources. On the right, you can put all of your destinations. So what I mean by that is this. Your sources are things like your media cards. Everything that is being given to you on a shoot day. Camera cards, audio cards. You might have a behind-the-scenes photographer or something. All of your media, all of your cards. They're all there on the left-hand side. Of course, they can also be hard drives too, but for my purposes, they're always media cards. And then on the right-hand side, I have all of my destinations. Now, I always want double backups. I always want to have two backups before I leave set. So I put both of my hard drives into Hedge. I throw them into the right-hand column, my destinations. I press transfer, and it just goes. It's extremely fast. It's way better than using the Finder. It's reliable. Everything is done correctly. And it's a professional software for professionals. I mean, that's what we are. Your media is the most important thing that you have at the end of a shoot day, and it's time to, treat it the right way. Treat it with respect. Stop just dragging things around the Finder. It's not the way to do it. Hedge is the way. So head over to hedge.video/Go Creative Show, and you'll get 20% off the full license. Of course, there are other licenses available too, and they are always updating the app. So you will always have the latest and greatest. Remember, use coupon code Go Creative Show at checkout, and you'll get 20% off the full license. And who wouldn't want that, right? Of course, hedge.video/Go Creative Show. Okay, let's dive into our interview because it's a good one, and you guys are going to love it. We've got the director of photography for the latest Terrence Malick film, A Hidden Life, Joerg Widmer. So I'm here with Joerg Widmer. He's the director of photography for Terrence Malick's new film, A Hidden Life. Jörg, thank you so much for being on Go Creative Show.
Thank you very much for having me.
I just saw the film last night, and it's excellent. I mean, the cinematography in it is so unique and beautiful, and the story's great. I mean, it was just a lot of, I hate to say a lot of fun to watch, because it's certainly not fun, but it's there is something very whimsical in the cinematography. And you just did a fantastic job, so I'm excited to talk to you about it.
Thank you very much. So it's not our first collaboration between Terry and me. So I have been the operator for Chivo and him for, I think, 5 movies before. And therefore, I knew what I had to expect when the call came to be the director of photography for this one. And what happened is that Terry told me about a script which was based on letters of Franz and Fanny Jägerstätter, who are 2 farmers in rural Austria. And they lived a very unspectacular life in their home community. And then the war came out, and Austria was annexed by the Nazis, and suddenly Austria was a part of Germany in a way. And they had a common army, and now it comes that every Austrian citizen, male citizen, has to serve in the army, and they were called up to go for training, and therefore Franz decided differently from the other people in the village, that he didn't want to go. No, he wanted to go to the army, but he didn't want to swear an oath of loyalty to Hitler. And this is what he fought through the whole story. And this is why the things happened as they happened. And what Terry told me, that he wants to shoot a story about these unknown heroes whose life doesn't shine on history and will not report it in history books. And but they are so important for themselves, and also because they are a matter of showing stance and standing up for their beliefs and convictions. And therefore, they are now, especially nowadays, they are so important. And what happened that political circumstances changed so much while we shot this movie, and therefore it's maybe even more important than in the beginning when we started to do it.
Well, I want to talk about the cinematography in it, because one of the first things that you notice in the trailer, even before you even watch the film, is the use of wide lenses. I mean, the lenses are short, everything's wide, everything is in focus. Talk to me about your camera and lens choices and how you came to those choices.
It's about the vision of Terry, who wants to have everything seen by the audience. So it's not that he wants to choose the frame which the audience has to look at. They have to. That it's about his perception, how he experiences the visual, the sight. So if he looks at something, he says, "I see foreground, background, and I see even people passing in the back, which are not supposed to be important, but they are there." And he wants to have the same vision for the audience, that they have the choice to not to look at definitely in the foreground, but also see what happens in the back, and to enhance the visual experience. So there are no secrets. You see everything. So if you see the village, you see the entire life which happens in this direction. And so, what it does, if you move the camera, then it gives an incredible experience of being sucked into the scene. So it's just trying to, it's propelling you into the scene somehow.
You were his camera operator for many films before this one even came to be. So you already had a working relationship with him, director Terrence Malick. So talk to me about that. Like, is there a consistency in his films from the cinematography side of things?
Yeah, I think it's an experience which we had, the 3 of us. So I'm very grateful for Civo Libetsky, who was his director of photography for the last 5 films, that we had the chance to try out and to find solutions for the way Terrence wants to shoot movies. And Terry is a man who gives you a lot of freedom. So he likes very much to try out and to fail, and then reshoot something, little scenes, and then make it better. So it's a matter of trust and a matter of friendship and common experience and common trying to do the best out of it. But it's unlike the other movies. It's not unlike the other movies, but maybe stronger than before. This movie has a script which is kind of a storyline which guides you through the whole movie. Before, it was more that scenes could be interchanged or set differently in the editing, but here it's really about starting with the harmony in the mountains, and then getting to the military training, then getting sentenced, then and then the time which Franz lives in prison and waiting for being executed. So it's just this storyline, which is a line which goes through in the narration. And so to find the right way to do so, we thought about which lens would tell the story the best, and we tried out the very short master prime lens, and we came to the conclusion that this is probably the best way to do it. Even if you are very close, if you're in your close-ups, you have probably a distance of maybe 1 foot sometimes.
Wow.
Which you have to explain to the actors that they are not afraid of the camera anymore. But the actors embraced it, and they had a lot of chance to perform and try again and to do it. So the takes were pretty long. We did the longest take was 43 minutes, and which gives the chance for everybody to try again and to get the best result of what you are doing there. So, what
was the scene that lasted 45 minutes to shoot?
It was something where we were up close to the barn in front of their house, and they were in the hay, and they were embracing each other, and they were playing, and it was all about using also the energy of the kids.
Yeah.
So if you started with something and you saw that the kids are doing the right thing and you should be able to catch it, then we went over there, and then we continued, and the camera didn't stop. This brings me to the second issue, which is the choice of camera. So in the beginning, we still were on film. This is the first Terrence Malick digital production. So we had to choose a camera, and since I'm quite experienced with this system, I used the Red Dragon, and we used it in 6K, and we could shoot. Therefore, we could be more playful, and the scenes could last longer, and we gave the actors more time. And one of the reasons why I choose this camera was because we can disassemble it to almost without battery. You take a battery and a different cable, you have a monitor which you can move wherever you like, and then it makes it so lightweight with these heavy lenses, and you can still run around and be playful.
Now, were you handheld the whole time?
No. We used a lot of Steadicam, as before as well, and we used a lot of handheld, slider, and sticks. No other tools. Which means that since we have so wide lenses, it means for the lighting department that they have had to be quite flexible. So
let me hold you back on lighting, because we're going to talk about that as well. Before we get there, though, so what were the focal lengths that you were working with in this film?
I have the longest focal length we used was this 14.
Wow.
And the 12 was the main lens.
That is just incredible. I mean, is there something, like I know you've worked with him in the past. You've been the operator for other Terrence Malick films. But do you ever find yourself throughout this whole process thinking to yourself like, geez, I just wish we could use a 35 for a close-up or a 50 for something? Like, do you feel like your creative, I guess your creative ideas are being held back because you're stuck to those lenses? Or is there something very freeing about having a limited tool set?
It's very. So it's a restriction where you have to which you have to embrace. What it does is that if you use such short lenses, it would immediately be a matter of that you are realizing that you use them if you take a longer lens in between. So if you would use a 50 and you would shoot some close-up with a 50 and then you continue with the 12, then it would immediately make you aware of it. But the good thing about using always the same lens size, kind of, makes you not aware of it, and you get really drawn into the story, which makes it very easy to create emotion. So I'm very happy to have these lenses, especially since if you have a wide lens, then you feel the movement, and since we are always in movement somehow, it makes it so exciting.
Now, is there something about the interplay between the actors and the cinematographer when you are a foot away from their face, 2 feet away from their face? You have to be very much in their space in order to achieve the close-ups you're going for. What is that like?
It's, as I told you, the actors like it. A little bit, sometimes the eyebrow is a problem because sometimes you hit them and they have to embrace this as well. What it does is, if you are very close to the actor, you don't have always to have an over shoulder, even if they are talking to each other. So you can avoid it, and you can pull 1 inch away, and 1 foot away, and then you have an over shoulder. So it makes you so flexible in changing the sizes and creating different. So it makes you so flexible in choosing the camera angles because you're so fast in changing them.
Mm. So you're saying that because you're basically right up against them, you have to constantly be changing angles?
It happens automatically. So as soon as they move, they change the angle as well.
Yes,
so it's not
that makes sense.
With a 50, if you want to go from a close-up to a cowboy, you have to go probably 9 feet or 10 feet at least. With this lens, you go 1 foot away and you have almost a wide shot.
Oh, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, because the lens is so wide, you don't need to move as far away from it to get from a close-up to a medium or even a wide shot. I understand what you're saying. So so I guess it compresses the space a little bit.
And it brings you so much dynamic. If you are running with them or if you pan with them, it is just gives so much. If you want to see joy, you see so much joy. And if you want to have energy, you get it also so quickly. It's incredibly encouraging to shoot with these lenses.
I love the way it looks. I mean, the whole time I'm watching it last night, because I direct commercials, and the whole time I'm watching it last night, I'm like, I really want to do something like this. I want to do something with all wide angle. It just has such a weird feel to it. And I mean, I say weird, obviously lovingly. I thought it was great, but it's a little bit unsettling because you're so in their face. Like just basic human interaction, you're never that close to people when you talk to them. You know what I mean? It's like people just have boundaries when they are associating with each other and talking to each other, communicating on the street or in the office or whatever. You never really get that close to a person's face. So when you do, you can see emotions on their face that you otherwise wouldn't be able to. It's really wonderful.
Yeah, I think so. That is creates a lack of distance, and you see the background. So you have, even in the close-up like this, everything is in focus. You see people reacting to them, and you have a chance to be close to these guys without, and they have no chance to go away, but only by not answering questions. For example, like ours, like Franz, he never answers the questions which are given to him. So this is the way how you try not to be, even if he's that close, you think you know what you'd always feel what he's thinking, but he never answers the question. So you don't need the answer because you know already what he doesn't say. When, for example, the judge asks him later, am I doing the right thing, or things like this? So it's always that he doesn't answer, but you feel it exactly what he's thinking and that he knows why he's doing what he's doing.
So much more interview to get to, but I just want to take a quick break to talk about Rule Boston Camera. Yes, Rule Boston Camera is the place to go to purchase and rent all of your production equipment. They have a gigantic inventory. I mean, mind-boggling. I was there twice this week. We had a whole bunch of shoots going on, and we had 2 different projects. Rental gear is going in and out. One day we're returning, one day we're picking up. It's all over the place. There's everything we can imagine. Lighting, audio, lenses, cameras, of course, all the dynamics, the camera dynamics you need, Movies, black arms, easy rigs, every single thing that you want. Chances are it's in the Rule inventory. They've been doing this for nearly 40 years. And when big, huge, giant Hollywood films and commercials come into town, they're using Rule. And that's because they're the best and they have the most gear. Now, it's also because they have incredible customer support. Now, they're going to make sure that you completely understand your gear before you leave. These guys are they're like your support system for production. They have got your back. They're going to give you expert advice and counsel in pre-production, technical guidance when you take the equipment out for your shoot, and they are committed to supporting you while you're on location. We're talking about peace of mind. So incredible inventory, great people, peace of mind. It's everything that you want when you're doing a production, right? Of course it is. So head over there, rule.com, and see what they have to offer for you. Rule.com. Now, with these wide-angle lenses, there's nowhere to hide. The entire set is seen. Everything is in focus. How are you dealing with lighting when there's really nowhere to hide these lights?
Yep. So
did I hit a sore spot?
No, not necessarily. So you have to embrace this part of it as well. So you it's all about natural lighting as much as you can. Sometimes we are in places which are pretty dark. Already these farmhouses in Austria, they have little windows and they are pretty unlit. And since you want to still have a beautiful light, then you have to go and see what the windows provide you with. And then maybe you can reduce a little bit the contrast. What you should do is always get rid of the sources which are in your back and get rid of these sources which creates a kind of sandwich of light so that you have 2 sides which are lit. So the lighting department, which in European system takes care of the blacks and of the butterflies as well, they were pretty busy by always covering the windows. And what we did as well to make this be possible is we had 2 cameras. So we had one highlight camera for the exteriors and we had a low light camera for the places where we didn't have enough light for. So what the highlight does is it gives you an amount of difference in the highlights which you want to have, but if you're inside, you don't care too much, and you are happy that you have all these dark stuff in with a bit of resolution and definition.
So wait, you had 2 cameras, or did you had 2 different cameras, or 2 of the same camera, just one set for outside, one set for inside?
One with a OLP highlight and the other one with a low light filter. So
I see. Okay.
And we were very quick in changing them. So when we went in, and additionally we had the DIT who was pulling the stop all the time, so he could adjust easily for the proper settings in the stop. So this was a very comfortable way of shooting because you didn't have to take care of exposure. He was doing it according to our preparation. And what the DIT did as well, he was able to give us rushes every evening. So we looked at the rushes and set already all this grading, which was in the editing room for the next 2 years.
Yeah. The editing process we're going to get to, it took 2 years to do this thing. I'd love to get your thoughts on that. But before we do, let's continue talking about your lighting choices for this. I mean, there's a lot of exteriors. So, I think one can assume your approach to the exteriors, but I'd love to hear what you did.
So we had a lot of blacks all the time. So to create a depth. So the idea is to be always in the darkness and always look towards the light. So basically the sun is kind of a gaffer, and where the sun is, it should always be in frame and always between the actor should always be between the sun and the camera, and then it's kind of easier. So you need a little bit of black to make it dark in the foreground, and then it's already lit pretty much. And you have still bounce boards to make it more beautiful, but it's pretty simple and flexible as well, because you can react quickly and move from one place to other. Inside, it's a bit different. So we always try to create a single light source visible. So if the door is open, this should be the light source, nothing else. So not a light from the side or so, especially from the camera direction. And what the good thing about Terry, who is a very good teacher as well for cinematography.
Why do you say that?
Because he knows so much about films and he has seen so much and has so much experience. So it's very encouraging to work with him, because he gives you so much freedom. So we went really to the extremes in contrast, and he let you do this, and then you can try out and you can get your results and reassess and probably give a little bit more wide next time, but still you have a lot of freedom to make it look contrasty and interesting and mysterious. Especially later, it's counted already in because we shot it also. The beginning was in the mountains, and later we went to the prison scenes. So already in the mountains, we had a lot of darkness, which was good to keep and not trying to brighten it up too much. Even if we used some lights to reduce contrast if necessary, but basically it was natural light as much as we could. And also, if the scene doesn't work because it's a covered day and you are interior, then why not move the scene a bit closer to the window and use this light? So it's very flexible. Terry's good to work with.
So in these farmhouses, like you were mentioning earlier, just the farmhouses of the time and of that area, they're not going to have these big, gigantic windows. They're small, little, teeny windows. So you don't, yes, you have your single light source and, the light is motivated through the windows and doors, but they're such small areas. Like even if the sun was exactly where you wanted it to be, you still wouldn't be lighting the entire house this way. So talk to me a little bit how you dealt with just the fill lights in there. Was it just bounce cards, or did you have like LED panels or anything on the opposite side?
Very little LED, but mostly bounce cards, and also using the spaces which are pre-lit. So this is the good thing about Terry, that he doesn't force you into the dark corners where you can't do anything anymore. So it's a constant adjustment of the stop. So for the right exposure, and then using the places which are pre-lit. If you want to shoot something at noon, you choose a place where you have south windows. If you shoot it in the morning, you are better off to shoot it in the east. And if you are free in choosing your locations, because the scenes can happen there, can happen also there, it's really liberating to work like this. And it goes very fast. That's the advantage for the directors, that you can achieve an enormous amount of scenes during the day.
Talk to me about your strategy for coverage in the film.
There's no coverage.
Yeah.
there's no. If you walk, there's nothing by walk and talk and choose the left person and then the right person and then edit it accordingly. It's just, if you look at the movie, you don't find that. It's just people turn around and address the camera, or I follow them and then catch them up from behind, and you feel what they think. Or there's no coverage, no such thing like classical coverage especially of dialogue. there will be the scenes shot maybe 3 times in different ways. So from a different angle, also a different action, but it matches somehow because the atmosphere is always the same, and the action in a way also.
So these actors are not, going over the scene multiple times. They just kind of, so it's almost like a play in a way. Like they're just doing the performance and you guys are just following it.
It's incredible how August Diehl and Valerie Pachner, they embraced it so much. They said, for the first time, we are not acting, we are these persons. And this is an experience which comes from that they really do what they do. So they are farming, they are milking cows, they are taking care of the animals, they are using the scythes and harvesting. So it's what they do. And the dialogues are still part of the scene, but they come naturally at the moment when they have to come. So the setups are somehow made, and then the action happens, and if it doesn't happen right, you repeat it. If you want to try it differently, you repeat it again. And this is the reason why we have such long takes. But the editing takes care of this. So we have shot a lot more than you see in the movie, and some of it's sad that it's not in there. But you have to kill your darlings, because I think the most important thing is that the movie provides this emotion which it has, and I love the movie as it is, even if I know that there are a lot of scenes which I loved as well, so to say.
Absolutely, yeah. I was reading that Terrence would allow the actors to really do what they're doing. Like they were farmers. I mean, they're playing farmers, and there would be these long periods where they would just be farming, working the field, working with the animals as rehearsals. Like instead of the rehearsals that we all think about, where people are running lines and going over the blocking, the rehearsals, quote unquote, would be them doing the jobs that their characters did and just letting them live that life for a little while. Is that true? I read that and it sounded interesting, and I'd love to know if that really was going on behind the scenes.
It's kind of true. So they knew about the scenes which they are performing the day. So it's the case because the locations are set that way. So you can't play a scene in the prison in the farmhouse, obviously.
Yeah.
but all these scenes are set in a way that it starts very playful. Even the camera doesn't necessarily, sometimes they didn't even know that the camera started to roll because it just was the right motion. And then it's also about the camera to be prepared for doing crazy things and in the right time, especially even more with the kids, but also with the actors. So so the coverage, I was mistaken. The coverage happens that you take details of their craft, of their harvesting. So you see the crop being cut or something like this. This is rather the coverage than the coverage by doing a reverse shot of a different actor to playing. So it's mostly that you see, if you see dialogues, it's mostly shot in one direction, and you see one actor in front and the other one from behind, and you feel exactly what he's doing, especially when the mayor addresses August, Franz, then very often you see only his back, and you feel then you see the violence of the mayor, and the hate which is in his lines. So, but you feel the reaction of Franz when you see his back. So, in a way, scenes like this, they were staged in a way, but they could also go somewhere else, and the camera just followed and found out.
In Terrence Malick's previous film, you were the camera operator, and now you've sort of bumped up to director of photography. Does the relationship change? And also, are you still operating the camera, or do you now have somebody operating your cameras for you?
No, I still operate the camera, and do it happily and with a lot of fun. And the what changes is that you're much more involved in the preparation of the movie, that you're more involved in choosing locations and thinking about what is feasible and what's not and what is reasonable to do, and also about the style and the look and how. So the choice of the 12 was somehow a proposal, because the last one, so in Song to Song, I think it was the 14 was the final lens. So the 12 was just a step ahead. We use it sometimes, but it was really a try, and it turned out to be the right lens. So being involved in preparation, also post-production, definitely. For the look of the film, if you choose your scenes, that you know exactly where you want to be darker later, or you know that you can make this face a little bit brighter, so you don't worry too much because you know exactly what to do. So this is something which you don't have to think if you are an operator. Color-wise, also for in connection with art department, it's very interesting because you can decide that you don't want to have these colors, or probably find different rooms because they have a glossy wall, that the shiny light on the wall may be better, also, which I didn't think too much about earlier, because this was all Chiva's choice, Emanuel Lubezki's choice.
You're talking about when you're selecting locations?
When you're selecting locations, or on locations, the sets where to play some scenes, or decisions how you want to deal with bad weather, how do you want to, how much nature you want to choose. So you're much more involved in creating the entire movie.
You are listening to the PremiumBeat.com Song of the Week. It's called The Workshop by Oliver Liu. Premium Beat is where to go for all of your royalty-free music. They have thousands and thousands and thousands of tracks for as low as $49 each. You heard me right. The crazy thing is it isn't just the individual track. You get cut downs and loop sets and stems, and really what you're getting is the ability to customize the track to fit your project perfectly. So customization, amazing price, and even better quality. Premium Beat is everything you want. PremiumBeat.com. And lastly, let's talk about Shutterstock.com. Now, Shutterstock is, everybody knows them for having hundreds of thousands of photos, the hundreds of thousands of video clips, music now, they have a blog, they have all sorts of stuff over there at Shutterstock. But what you may not know is that they have curated the best of the best that Shutterstock has to offer. I'm talking about Shutterstock Select. Yes, Shutterstock Select are clips that are cinema quality, and they are created by industry pros. So you get exceptional quality. We're talking about premium, highly curated footage captured in up to 8K by leading filmmakers. And they're doing it on cutting-edge gear. We're talking about shooting on RED cameras, Zeiss Master Prime lenses, and more. It goes on. And simple pricing, which is what Shutterstock is all about to begin with. So these Shutterstock Select clips are, again, the best that Shutterstock has to offer. And they're $3.99 for unlimited worldwide use. That is huge. That's huge. You get cinema quality clips for an amazing price that you can use forever worldwide. That's what Shutterstock is all about. So head over there right now and check it out for yourself. Shutterstock.com. Click on footage and then look for Shutterstock Select. All right, so much more to talk about with Joerg Widmer, so let's get right to it. The conclusion of our interview with Director of Photography, Joerg Widmer. There's a lot of large, sweeping, beautiful environmental shots, landscapes. Did you have a second unit, or were you shooting those as well?
In this one, I shot everything myself.
Wow.
So I went after the final, done with principal photography. I went out for 2 days and shot landscapes and waterfalls and whatever. But already during the shoot, before the scenes really evolved, so after crew call, we tried to catch trees, clouds, nature, whatever happens, until actors were ready to perform. And even in between, if you see something, why not shooting it right away? So it's all about, and Terry is very much connected to nature and to everything which happens, fire, wind, clouds. So it's easy to just step aside and do something and let the cast wait for 5 minutes and continue.
The village that they live in, was that something that you guys built, or did you find kind of a pre-existing village?
It's all existent still. Yeah.
It's all what? I'm sorry?
It's still existent. So the village is not built. So it was, there were some, so the equipment and all, this is all out of the time of 1943. So all these props, they are added, but basically the village has there were little things which had to be improved to fit the film. So it's just by choosing the areas which you can shoot. So just if there are modern houses, don't shoot there. So shoot somewhere else or find an angle where you can avoid it. It's all done by these choices.
It looks incredibly remote, but was it? Like, were you actually staying at hotels nearby, or did you stay in the village?
We stayed remote. So we traveled to there. There's not so much infrastructure to provide a team of maybe 60 with hotels. So we had to travel every day a little bit. But it was nice. Austria and South Tyrol are beautiful countries. And also on our way to there, we started to shoot something sometimes. If sunset, sunrise, whatever was available.
What, did you just have the camera like sitting right next to you in the car, ready to go at all moments?
Sometimes, yeah.
I love that. How far away were you staying? How much travel was there every day?
It was half an hour to
that's not
45
bad.
minutes. Yeah.
Wow, it looks like you're 5 hours into the mountains. the way that this village looks, it's incredible.
Even with this wide lens,
I know exactly right.
So much, yeah.
I know. Any studio work on this, or was everything location?
Everything location.
Wow.
No studio. Yeah. No, especially you wouldn't call. No, it was. So I'm a bit mistaken by location, because when it starts to come to prison, so that the death row or the execution scene, it's made set. So it was, but it's in an old industrial site. And it was already pretty run down, so they had to do a bit, but not too much.
So you weren't building on stages, but you were creating a few sets in your locations where you needed to.
Yeah, that's the way it was. Yeah.
I want to talk about the post-production process and your involvement there, especially in the color. Kind of walk me through your process, because this was a very long editing, session, I guess we'd call it. It was about 2 years, if what I'm reading is correct. And how were you involved in that, and when did you begin your involvement?
The involvement started already on set. So because the DIT was a very good grader, and I shot with him a couple of movies before already. So the system was always the same, that he was on set and we graded the rushes, and later we graded also the entire movie. So Terry saw what he did, and he asked him if he didn't want to be involved in the post-production process. So we took care that the rushes looked already according to the final look of the movie, and then later he could use all the settings which we created on set for the final post-production.
Great.
This was a very nice process. And so it was worth, even in rushes, to take care a little bit more than you usually would, because you could use everything later, because I knew he would be the guy with whom I have the joy to work with, Christian Kuss. And therefore, it was worth to take care.
What were some of the inspirations that you pulled from for the look of the film, either in the cinematography, the color, anywhere along the line?
So what we agreed to with Terry is to avoid primary colors, so like strong greens, strong reds, strong blues. And you can't, even the blue of the sky, we removed a little bit the color intensity, saturation. What was important to keep the red of the swastika flags. So this is the only primary color which you found in the movie. And apart from this, was all a bit, all the saturation was taken back in the costumes. In Lizzie Crystal, who is the costume designer, she did a great job already by presenting all these fantastic costumes which fit into this setting. And also in production design, that we avoided to have these primary colors.
So in the post, now a lot of that, it sounds like, was done in the production design and in the wardrobe. How much did you have to do in color to pull back that saturation and to, pull back those colors? Because I can imagine that in your big landscape shots, there must have been these pops that you just can't avoid.
There's not so much. In these areas, you have also a really, really low saturation color choice. So the roofs are not colorful. The wood itself is also not so. It's not in modern times. In the old days, they didn't do this. And since the sets are still from then, and we avoided to have the modern parts in it, it was still very good to have this. What happened a lot is to reduce, to enhance contrast and to reduce contrast. So it was more about this than to find the right balance in choosing the dark places, that the image, that your concentration goes into the action which you want to show. So always coming from darkness to brightness, but still see their faces and make it somehow mystery. That was the bigger challenge, and still have the incredible latitude which you need. And use it wisely. Therefore, the exposure was so important that you want to still see something outside. So we were lucky because the winter part we shot already on the helium, which has a better latitude. The summer part was still on the Dragon, but they invented this IPP tube color pipeline, and this gave us the chance to have a better roll-off in the whites, which made it possible that we could go darker in the darkness and still have the definition in the sky, for example.
You said, okay, so just a second ago, I didn't hear you. You said the Dragon was used for your summer scenes. What were the winter scenes shot on?
On the helium. So
okay.
So it came out of this days and then we improved. But it's not so visible. It's still good, and it was good before.
So it just gave you more latitude.
Gave me just a little bit more latitude, yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, the film is totally consistent from first frame to last frame, so it doesn't seem like you changed a sensor at all. Yeah, it has a cohesive look for sure. What would you say is the most challenging scene of the film, and why?
Let us put different. So I like the entire movie very much, and I like it as it is, and so because it's so much about humanity, and it has such an important message. So what I like very much, and not in the way of challenging, but challenging, more in the way it was told. I like very much the execution scene, because you have this darkness, and you have this bureaucracy, and you have this threat by these people who come out, and you have all these people suffering, and then you see, you don't see anything. So that's what I think is so well executed, because you don't have to show the violence. The violence happens by being told by the reactions of the people, and by seeing these windows with the nature creeping in, but not being able to come in anymore, and seeing a little bit of light, and then having this curtain and seeing the guillotine just for a brief moment. And then I think this is I'm so impressed that it works so well, and I'm still into tears when I watch the scene, because it's so cruel, and on the other hand, you don't show anything.
Yeah, it really is. it's surprising how much you don't see, but also how much you feel. I mean, because let's face it, this is a war movie, and you were just so used to seeing violence associated with war, and for good reason, obviously. But to make a decision where there really isn't much violence at all that you see, but you feel so much of it. You feel the connection between, him and his family, and when they're torn apart, what that feels like, and you feel the execution scene, and it's just a great decision that I absolutely loved, and I'm glad that you brought that up as one of your, favorite scenes of the film.
Yeah, and I think Franz, he is a kind of character of a Greek drama, because he has two options. None of them is good. Each of them will have a bad outcome, and therefore it's such you are so desperate, and then you see this execution, and it makes you even sadder. Which is, I think it's such a even if I'm involved, but still I would say it's such a strong movie because it's so about humanity and the lack of humanity for certain people, and the brutality of war times, where you just get disconnected from your community, family, and all this.
We've been asking cinematographers on the show for the past few episodes, is there a tool that you like to have with you on every shoot? Something that you bring with you all the time? It could be simple, it could be expensive, it could be a big deal, big, small, anything. Is there one tool that you have to have with you on every set?
It is a Steadicam, as before, always has been. So it makes you so flexible and gives you so much opportunity to create incredible scenes.
So Steadicam's your tool. Do you ever operate it?
Always.
Oh, so you're in the camp. So you're doing everything on this movie, and all your movies, I guess.
I don't do the lighting, but I
or the acting, I guess.
The acting, I tried sometimes, to no avail. No, it's the Steadicam is always with me. And on this one, it was the slider, and the slider is so quick, especially if you have a grip who is so flexible and eager to do it. Like Ilko, he was just providing services in areas which you wouldn't expect to happen. So just, why not doing it up there? And this was really nice.
Do you think you'd ever work with an operator, or is it just this is just what you're going to do? You're always going to be operating.
So I did a couple of shows where we had two cameras, and that's very good to have the A camera doing somebody else, so you can concentrate on lighting. But for movies with Terry, I think it's the way to go.
Well, you guys have such a good rapport now. I mean, when you're working with him, you must already. I mean, you probably already know what he wants before he even wants it.
We are somehow brothers in spirit. Yes, I would say.
I love that. I love that. Well, all right. Well, what's next for you?
I continue to shoot a movie which I started last autumn in Albania, and has to be finished in February. So we are already preparing the winter part, which is quite interesting, because Albania in general is not such a country known for having good film infrastructure. So it was quite challenging already to shoot part one in the northern part of Albania. And in winter it will be even more demanding.
What's the name of the film?
Burnesha. It's called Burnesha. They have to tell a little bit of it, they have an old rule that women, it's a society of men and women, and so men excel in public and women do the labor. And what they have is, if you get to do something like, for example, if you follow the blood revenge and you are a woman, you have to swear an oath that you never marry again, and then you can be a man. And then it's called Burnesha, so you can go and commit the blood revenge, and then you are probably the head of the family and replace the murdered father in this case, and then you have to live as a man for the entire following life. And this is about this. It's kind of interesting nowadays because it was the chance for Albanian women to get more freedom, which they didn't have otherwise. So it's an interesting issue right now. Quite interesting.
Yeah, my God, and heavy. Do you ever just sit there and say, maybe I'll just do a romantic comedy next? Just keep it simple.
I would love to. Nobody offers me that. Okay.
So people listening out there, if you've got a romantic comedy script, we've got your guy.
I'm coming immediately.
I love that. Well, Jörg, thank you so much for being on Go Creative Show. We'd love to have you back for your next big film.
Thank you for having me and for your time.
I want to thank Joerg Widmer for coming on the show to talk about A Hidden Life. It was a fantastic discussion. I hope you guys learned as much as I did, or more. How about that? I also want to thank Matt Russell for mixing, mastering, and making the show sound so good. You can find him at Gain Structure on Twitter, @GainStructure, and his website, gainstructure.com. And also find our producer, Connor Crosby, on Twitter, @IgnitionVisuals, and his website, ignitionvisuals.com. Of course, you should also be searching for us, Go Creative Show, on all social media platforms. We've got our YouTube page going now, going strong. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, we're all there. We're there. And we give you guys an inside peek as to what's coming up on the show and give you an opportunity to have your questions heard. So head over there, follow us, and ask your questions. And of course, our sponsors, Rule Boston Camera, Shutterstock, Hedge, and Premium Beat. Without these people, the show just wouldn't exist. So please support those that support us, and we will see you next week for our 200th episode.